Now, when it comes to Mega Karen, I mean Drake, you already know why we're here today. And if you're ready to get into the most anti-hip-hop move Drake has ever pulled in his entire career, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Because Karen has truly gone too far this time, and at this point, you're either standing with him or standing with hip-hop. Leave that like so hip-hop culture comes out on top, and this guy loses worse than ever alongside all the strange company he keeps. Now with that said, what Drake is currently doing with his lawsuit against his own label over Not Like Us is something else entirely. And somehow, in a way I never thought I'd be able to say, the Karen energy in all of this is completely off the charts. Even by his own standards, we have never seen Drake behave quite like this. And I'm genuinely trying to keep it together right now, but I just can't. Because dragging Kendrick Lamar's children and family into legal documents, trying to dig into Whitney and Kendrick's relationship history, questioning Dave Free and Kendrick's DNA, pulling in figures like Pusha T and Screwface Jean on top of everything else. This is the most unhinged thing I have ever read through. And while the grown men hiding behind women's profile pictures in these online communities are out here celebrating like Drake just scored some kind of victory, yes, that's a direct shot at all the OVO people who we know are not actually women and are constantly flooding my timeline. I've got bad news for all of you. Not only is Drake never going to get away with these demands, but if there was any credibility he had left in hip-hop, that card has been permanently declined. With this move, Drake is now undisputedly and completely last name Karen.
First name lamest and nothing else. And at the very least, one good thing to come out of all of this is that even the people who were trying to support Drake have been forced to drop the pretense that he's doing this for the good of the industry. Now they're at least admitting what this really is: a petty, emotional attempt to harass Kendrick Lamar and anyone else who has ever bruised his ego in any way. Because looking at everything Drake is demanding in this discovery process,
there is absolutely no legitimate reason to want any of this information other than to cause the maximum amount of chaos possible. And honestly, while there are so many problems with all of this that no single mind could process it all at once, what we're clearly seeing is that the team of people enabling and validating these delusions for Drake, dragging this case out over and over, are just as Karen as he is. Because there is no genuine pursuit of truth or justice in any of this whatsoever. Which I thought was supposed to be the entire point of using the legal system in the first place. Instead, Drake is simply trying to make Kendrick Lamar's life as miserable and inconvenient as he possibly can through whatever means he has left. Because pulling Kendrick's children and family into actual legal paperwork, I don't know how else to put this. This is petty, messy, and disgusting in a way we've almost never seen from any artist. And the deeper you read into these documents, the more it compounds. Because everything Drake is pushing here just reveals one thing more clearly than anything else. This is nothing more than a desperate cry from hip-hop's least favorite Karen. And this isn't even a matter of opinion, because while this case is supposedly about Not Like Us and Kendrick Lamar, what we actually see inside these documents is Drake having a full-on meltdown and throwing a tantrum. Specifically in the section where Drake straight up admits he was using the label to censor and silence Pusha T. And not just one particular story, but literally everything Pusha T has ever put out. And then Drake turns around and essentially complains to the label that since they allowed him to silence Pusha T, but didn't do the same for Kendrick Lamar, something must be wrong. Well, I genuinely don't even know how to respond to that, because it is truly that awful and disturbing to even think about. But to the music industry at large, shame on you for creating someone this spoiled and this entitled. Because seriously, who in their right mind thinks they have the nerve to censor one of their own peers in an art form they supposedly love and respect? And beyond that, how could you possibly think you'd be allowed to silence a rapper who, by every meaningful metric, has been operating at a higher level than you for their entire career?
So with the single biggest thing Drake has now permanently destroyed his reputation with, through all the noise and all the grievances he's trying to drag into this, just keep this in mind, because it reveals more than anything else that this entire lawsuit is nothing but the delusional rage of a Karen who has spent the last decade throwing fits. And now that there are no managers left to complain to, he's trying to burn everything down alongside them because he has nowhere left to run. And hey, everyone's already watching this meltdown, so why not torch every last thing you've ever stood for while you're at it? Because truly, when you look at all of this, Drake isn't just exposing how ugly and pathetic he has been, not just to himself, but to every peer and every person he has ever come across. But really, and this might be the hardest pill for Drake fans to swallow, what Drake is actually revealing through all of this is that he is genuinely, deeply obsessed with Kendrick Lamar. Not in a rivalry kind of way, but in a full-on Eminem-level stan kind of way. Because to seriously sit down and request documents on virtually everything connected to Kendrick Lamar's personal history, to try and get into the DNA of his children, to probe his relationship with Dave Free, and then, of course, the whole dynamic with Whitney and what he said about all of them on Family Matters, and dragging Dave Free and Whitney into it because he wants DNA involved. What we are witnessing is that Drake's obsession with Kendrick Lamar has consumed him to the point where he cares more about who Kendrick's kid's father is than he has ever seemed to care about his own child. And the more you sit with what Drake is actually trying to accomplish here and what he hopes to gain, the more insane it becomes, especially what he's requesting around Dave Free, Kendrick's kids, and everything surrounding Whitney.
Which brings us back to just how contradictory and messy this whole thing really is. Because we've now reached a point where everything Drake is trying to uncover is directly tied to his own diss track, Family Matters, the supposed big reveal moments he put out there. And now he's using those very same claims to file legal requests, searching for evidence to back up things he made up himself. And this is honestly the most baffling part of this entire situation. Because what we're seeing is Drake using his own lies and disses as the basis for demanding court-sanctioned information about things that have no documented record whatsoever. And in this case,
when you see the words from a diss track being converted into actual legal requests to dig into facts that don't exist, because of course Drake said these things about Kendrick with zero proof. Well, first off, this confirms that Drake never had any evidence for a single thing he claimed about Kendrick Lamar. But in the broader sense, when I say this lawsuit is damaging hip-hop and artistic expression as a whole, this is exactly what I mean. Because watching Drake's rap lyrics transform into legal tools used to invade Kendrick Lamar's personal life, based on claims he fabricated himself. If you don't think every rapper is paying attention to this and rethinking how they approach beefs going forward, you are seriously mistaken. And when you see that Drake is requesting virtually every detail of both Kendrick's professional and personal life, not just his record deal, but the exact monetary value of his entire music catalog, you realize just how far off the rails this has gone. Going from DNA tests to wanting to know what Good Kid MAD City is worth as an asset. None of this has any connection to Not Like Us, or anything relevant to the actual case. And when you see Drake throw all of this at Kendrick just to force the label and the legal team to keep prying into his life, to keep his name and his family entangled in these proceedings, there's really no point in pretending anything else is going on here. And nobody has made it more obvious than Drake himself in this very moment, which is that when it comes to Drake and Kendrick Lamar, Drake is simply consumed by this man and everything Kendrick represents. And honestly, with all of this unfolding right around the anniversary of Control, it couldn't be more fitting or poetic. But really, to see Kendrick rising at exactly the moment Drake is at his lowest, what we're clearly watching is the biggest opportunist in hip-hop history trying to destroy Kendrick's life in the only way he has left. And it has nothing to do with music, because this sad excuse for a rapper could only manage to put fabrications into a song. but apparently he can whine in a courtroom and cement himself as the biggest Karen in the history of the genre.
And that's exactly how we ended up in this ridiculous situation. And when you see that these are last-ditch attempts to make Kendrick's life as difficult as possible, prying into his personal world and drowning him in the noise of all of this, and then you see Drake openly admit that he censored Pusha T, among so many other damning things, we are watching someone who is willing to sacrifice absolutely everything just to get some form of revenge on Kendrick Lamar. Which is wild because the guy could have simply come as a better strategy in the rap battle or just tried to make a good song. But I suppose that's too difficult, which is exactly why we're here. And listen, while there's plenty more to unpack and things we could get into, like Drake trying to drag content creators like Screwface Gene into all of this, what really matters right now is simple. If you are in hip-hop or anywhere near it, in music and art in general, and you're looking at what Drake is doing, you have to pick a side. You're either with rap or you're with Drake. There is no middle ground. And if you're siding with Drake at this point, I'm sorry, but you cannot call yourself a rap fan, because no matter how you frame it.
We have never seen any figure do more damage to the very soul and legacy of hip-hop across its entire 52-year history than what we're seeing right here in these documents. And all I'll say is this: while the lame Drake fans hiding behind women's profile pictures are out here acting like Drake is winning and all the secrets are finally coming out, Drake literally just admitted that Pusha T has been censored for years entirely because of him, and he's furious that Kendrick Lamar didn't receive the same treatment. So all I'm going to say, and I think this is where we just have to place our trust right now, is to quote Pusha T, Malice, and Eclipse.
We just have to let God sort this out at this point. I genuinely don't know what else there is to do. So with all of that said, let me know what you think about the disaster Drake has just created with all of this. What are your thoughts on everything? What's the most bizarre part to you? Just drop your thoughts below. I am absolutely drained by this. And honestly, seeing how low Drake is willing to sink just makes you want to go listen to some real rap and forget he exists entirely. I can't wait to hear what you all think. And if you made it this far and you're out here trying to protect hip-hop culture,
make sure to leave a like and subscribe. It genuinely helps a lot. And if you want to see how right before all of this, Drake was clearly hinting that he was about to pull something big and annoying on Kendrick Lamar, he completely crashed out on him at his last show before this went down, check out the suggested video.